All right, Adam, real last name unknown. We're still on dessert. The kitchen phone rang, followed by a beep, the little green light indicating that the hostess at the front desk had a call for me. Yeah, I said, covering one ear so I could understand what she was saying over the radio and clatter of pots and the noise of the dishwasher. Call for the chef, she said, line 2. I pressed the red flashing light signal for Steven at the grill to turn down the radio. Feed the bitch, said the voice on the phone. Feed the bitch or she'll die. It was Adam. What he wanted me to do, what he was telling me was that he was too drunk, too tired, too lazy, too involved in some squalid personal circumstances to come in and feed his starter, a massive, foaming, barely contained heap of fermenting grapes, flour, water, sugar, and yeast, which even now was pushing up the weighted down lid of a 35-gallon Lexington container and spilling over on the work table where it was stored. Adam, we're busy here, I protested. Tell him I'm not doing it, yelled Steven from the line. You've been expecting this call. Tell him I'm letting her die if she doesn't get his ass here. If he doesn't get it. Dude, I've got like a situation here, man. And like, I just can't. Please do me a favor. I promise I'll bake tomorrow night. Please feed the bitch. What's so important? What's so important? You can't come in here, I asked, knowing soliciting an untruth. Knowing Lisa and listen, okay. Dude, they're trying to evict me from my apartment and like, I gotta be here. I have to be here when my lawyer calls, man. They're always trying to evict you from your apartment, Adam, I said. So what else is new? Yeah, but this time it's serious, said Adam, slurring his words slightly. I gotta wait for my lawyer to call, otherwise I'm fucked, you know? What lawyers call at 8:30 on a Friday night, Adam? Well, he's not really a lawyer per se. He's more like a guy who's like helping me. I could picture the scene on the other end of the phone. Adam, real last name unknown, the psychotic bread baker, alone in a small, filthy Upper West Side apartment, his eyes 2 different sizes after a 36-hour coke and liquor jag, white crust accumulated at the corner of his mouth, a 2-day growth of whiskers, standing there in a shirt and no pants amongst the porno mags, the empty Chinese takeout containers, as the Spice Channel flickers silently on the TV, throwing blue light on a can of Dinty Moore beef stew by an unmade bed. He's been snorting coke and smoking weed and drinking vodka from a half-gallon jug of Wolfschmidt's or Fleischmann's. If he's drinking a better brand, he probably stole it from the restaurant, and now he's out of money. He doesn't have enough for a cab, and he's too lazy and incoherent to hump 20 blocks down and feed the bitch. I pondered the situation, looking first at the 250-pound blob of starter and then at Steven. I'm not doing it, says Steven. His voice gets high and squeaky when he gets indignant. Tell Vinny to go fuck himself, Steven calls Adam Vinny. I don't know why, maybe it's his real name. I kept Adam waiting. I'll help you feed her, man, I told Steven. I don't want to look at the guy, the way he sounds. You really want to see him? The condition he's in, you know how he gets. All right, says Steven, grumbling under his breath as he slapped a steak on the grill. This is the last time, though. Tell him that next time I'm going to let her die. I'm going to throw her in the trash. We can buy bread. We'll feed her, I told Adam. I was now committed to wrestling a back-breaking, heavy, ungainly blob out of the plastic Lex and heaping it in stages into the big Hobart mixer and feeding it with a mix of warm water and fresh flour and yeast. Then I'd have to scrape it back into the Lex and haul that back up onto its resting place, stack sheet pans and potato sacks on top of it. It was a 2-man job, one that would leave flour and goop all over my clean kitchen, leave dough under my fingernails and cling into my clogs. But anything was preferable to having Adam, real last name unknown, in my kitchen right now. Anything. Why did God in all his wisdom choose Adam to be the recipient of greatness? Why of all his creatures did he choose this loud, dirty, unkempt, obnoxious, uncontrollable, megalomaniacal madman to be his personal bread maker? How was it that this grace as an employee, as a citizen, as a human being, this undocumented, untrained, uneducated, and unwashed mental case who's been employed for about 10 minutes by every kitchen in New York could throw together a little flour and water and make magic happen? And I'm taking real magic. I'm talking real magic here, people. I may have wanted Adam dead 1,000 times over. I may have imagined even planned his demise, torn apart by rabid dogs, his entrails snapped by ravenous Dachshunds, chained to a pillory post and flogged with chains and barbed wire before being drowned and quartered. But his bread and his pizza crusts are simply divine. To see his bread coming out of the oven, to smell that deeply satisfying, spiritually comforting waft of yeasty goodness, to tear into, breaking apart that floury, dusty crust and into the ether, really peasant-style bowls are the perfect objects and arrangement of atoms unimprovable by God or man, pleasing to all the senses at once. At once, Cezanne would have wanted to paint them, but might not have considered himself up to the job. Adam, real last name unknown, may be the enemy of polite society, a menace to any happy kitchen, a security risk, and a potential serial killer, but the man can bake. He's an idiot savant with whom God has serious, frequent, and intimate conversations. I just can't imagine what he's telling him or whether the message is getting garbled during transmission. The Crusaders of yore, it is said, used to stop off at the local church or monastery before heading off to war, where they were allowed to purchase indulgences. This was sort of like a secured prepaid credit card from heaven. I imagine the negotiations probably went something like this. Bless me, Father, for I am about to sin. I plan on raping, pillaging, and disemboweling my way across southern Europe and North Africa, taking the Lord's name in vain, committing sodomy with all and sundry, looting the holy places of Islam, killing women and children and animals, leaving them in smoking heaps, as well, of course, as getting up to the usual soldiery hijinks of casual eye gougings, dismemberment, bear baiting, and arson. Give this sinful agenda. Padre, how much is this going to cost me? That'll be a new roof for the vestry, my son. Perhaps a few carpets from down there. I understand they make a lovely carpet where you'll be going, and shall we say 15% of the top as a tithe off the top? Deal. Go in peace, my son. Adam gets right with God with every proof rack of sourdough bread he pulls out of the oven. Every crispy, crunchy, deliciously blistered pizza. It's God's little joke on all of us, especially me. I've hired him 3 or 4 times and fired and rehired him again on countless occasions. He's in his late 20s to early 30s, I think, though. He looks older. He's of a medium height with lank black hair thinning at the crown. He's barrel-chested with the huge shoulders and upper arms of a guy who's been balling dough for years. His eyes are brown, but they look cold black, at once menacing and pathetic, set into a mischievous baby face whose expression can change in an instant from huggably endearing and childlike to slaveringly insane. To sign on Adam to your crew is to buy, for a time, the best bread I ever tested. Best bread only for a time. It ensures that your customers, when examining their bread baskets, will exclaim, where did you get this bread and where can I buy this bread? It also means that your life will be a waking nightmare, that every corner of your walk-ins and kitchen shelving will be likely to contain various sinister-looking and foul-smelling science experiments, rotting grapes, fermenting red peppers, soggy buckets of mushroom trimmings, the gills and stems decomposing into noxious black sludge, all of them destined for the bitch, one of her many offspring, smaller batches of starter that have been flavored with or started by one of these primordial oozes. Walk-ins will contain buckets of slowed-down starter and forgotten batches of dead starter. Freezers will be loaded with half-baked boulets and frozen sour mix. The floor is sticky with dough like some virulent snail. Adam leaves tracks, but he also leaves the stuff. The most amazing olive and herb breads, pepper bread, mushroom bread, focaccias, pizzas, garlic twists, breadsticks, and brioches. He claims to be of Sicilian heritage, affecting the mannerisms and gestures and expressions of the street guinea from some Scorsese-inspired Brooklyn, but is he actually of Italian lineage? No one knows for sure. Stephen claims to have seen his birth certificate, the real one, mind you, and that his real last name is Turkish or Arab, but who knows? Documentation from Adam is always of dubious provenance. His cooking background is certainly Italian, no question there. He is not to be relied on for baguettes, if you believe in, which you shouldn't. He was taught to bake by Lydia Bastianich, is fond of showing off a tattered and dog-eared copy of one of her books inscribed to one of his many known aliases. He's worked, to my direct knowledge, as a cook, chef, consultant, pie man at pizzerias, deli help, patissier, and baker. Half of what comes out of his mouth is utter bullshit. The rest suspicious at best. He's perpetually broken in debt. The corner deli says Stephen gives him credit as does his local bar, and Anna pays him during the good times and stiffs him in the bad. He's always headed off to Little Italy to pay off some shady character cop weed or settle his rent problems. He used to sue everyone he worked for, claiming harassment, breach of contract, theft of services, unfair labor practices, even sexual harassment, and has had surprisingly good luck with his second career as professional litigator. Many of his victims, I suspect, were willing to pony up a few dollars just to make him go away. Jimmy Sears, who first brought Adam, real last name unknown, into my circle of acquaintances, the notorious Stephen and Adam acquisition of the 92nd season, is another reluctant admirer. Like me, Jimmy should know better than to let this savage beast wander free in his kitchen, but he keeps doing it, keeps hiring him for the stuff. The Sears-Adam relationship has been a legendarily contentious one, coming to blows on more than one occasion. They have been both arch enemies and close associates, rolling around trying to kill each other on the lawns at the inn at the Quogue, having wrestling matches at 13 Barrel and screaming contests at the Supper Club. Stephen, who's known Adam the longest, has had many adventures with him, both here in New York and in California. Episodes of such nauseating stupidity, self-indulgence, cruelty, and horror that even I find them unprintable. Adam has threatened to sue me many times. He has sued Sears, I believe, a number of times, as his assessment of what He is owed is frequently at odds with reality. To be fair, Jimmy's assessments of what he owes is sometimes at variance with established fact as well. There was a photo taken years ago from a magazine article that was never printed, showing Adam covered from head to toe in flour, holding Jimmy in a headlock, pretending to bash in his skull in with a rolling pin. It was the perfect recreation of their relationship. Just recently, after many years, I stopped by to see Jimmy Sears at his new place, a swank nightclub, supper club in the Gramercy area. I sat down at a table, ordered some food. Jimmy's food is always excellent, and when the bread basket arrived, I looked up from the table at Jimmy with a horrible sense of recognition. "You didn't?" I asked, scarcely able to believe it. "I did," said Jimmy, son. "I have Adam making my bread and my pizza." The last I'd heard, Adam was bragging about getting the marshals to yank out Sears stoves and equipment to pay off his claim of non-payment, claiming he was going to bash Jimmy's skull into red paste this time, make him cry like a little girl, destroy his life. Previous year, Adam had to be delivered to the West Hampton train station under police escort after one of the famous Quogo incidents, the Hamptons' first forced deportation. Jimmy was Adam's favorite obsession, a ready-to-go revenge scenario, his number one topic of conversation now. Like so many relationships in the restaurant business, everything old was new again. To endure Adam as an employee was to become a full-time cop, psychiatrist, moneylender, friend, and antagonist, though he does have his sweet side. Stephen, Nancy, and I went skiing with him one time. Adam was thrilled to be doing something normal. Dr. Herbert Cleckley, in his groundbreaking work on serial killers, The Mask of Sanity, discusses this phenomenon where the career sociopath, fastidiously aware of his character, emulates normalcy by overcompensating, becoming a scoutmaster, a crisis line counselor, a Republican fundraiser. In this case, Adam, excited by the prospect of a wholesome activity like going skiing with the guys, prepared a bacchanalian picnic lunch for his fellow skiers, 2 chest coolers filled with homemade caponata, antipasto, sliced cold cuts, freshly baked Italian bread, cheese, marinated artichokes, roasted peppers. He must have been up all night getting it ready, and he skied like a hero, though he's the last person in the world who should be allowed. He has his ski boots on the wrong feet for the first hour. He had neglected to bring gloves or mittens. He lost his ski pole, but he soldiered on without complaint. I vividly recall looking down from the ski lift, seeing him fall on his face, then clamber up again and thinking, you know, there is something to love about this guy beyond the bread. He's an extraordinary survivor, a man who has attained some nice highs and endured some truly low lows and always managed to bounce back. Maybe he's calling himself something else this time around. Maybe his paychecks are made out to some fictitious company, a third party, his latest alias, but he's still on his feet at the end of the day. He's still making that incredible bread. Adam is not a stupid guy, though. I sometimes think he aspires to be. His anecdotes are wildly exaggerated, unspeakably crude and graphic adventures, usually involving his penis, but without the earnest and self-deprecating charm of his friend Steven's accounts. Adam's comedy material runs along pretty predictable lines, referring to his dill bread starter, for instance, as dildo, accompanied by a maniacal laugh. He has an unusual and frankly terrifying tic. When he eats, one eye rolls up into his sockets. I'm told he makes funny faces when he has sex, but I try very hard not to picture that. He's a sentimental guy who can take real pride in his work. I've seen him up weeping when his tiramisu didn't come out as planned, and when a cassata cake he made began to slide in the heat. He sulks, wheedles, whines, and bullies when he wants something, which is always, and you can pretty much tell what frame of mind he's in from his appearance. If he hasn't shaved, it's not a good time to be around him. At Sullivan's, I schedule his baking shifts at night after the kitchen closed. I didn't want him interacting with other cooks. His foul, macho banter with the Ecuadorian and Mexican line cooks invariably caused offense, and he was an incurable slob. You will arrive in my kitchen promptly at 1 a.m. You will bake my bread, and you will be gone by the time the first cook arrives in the morning, were my instructions. I did not want to tell my garden manager or my garden manger guy that he was going to make him his woman, or bragging about some imaginary or real adventure at the Casa de Putas, or singing witlessly obscene and funny Christmas carols to the dishwashers who saw him as a near satanic apparition. Allowing Adam to work unsupervised at night, however, meant that he would lift my reach-in doors off the hinges to help himself to midnight snacks of T-bone steaks, white truffle risotto, and tomato salad, washed down, no doubt, with a bottle of Pilfered Dom Perignon now and again, but that was to be expected. The bread, it was so good. That's pretty cool. The first few months of Adam's employment were always the honeymoon. He showed up pretty much on time, producing one way or the other what was required. Then when things were going well, the customers commenting favorably on the product, his master's happy, he'd start to enter a fugue state, F-U-G-U-E. Martyr, his master's, martyr mode, where he'd begin sulking, feeling put upon, sorry for himself. All that work he was doing by himself, all that fine Adam bread was underappreciated by his cruel and insensitive overlords. How would begin trying to jack me up for more money, demanding restitution for expenses, taxes, and research. He wanted new equipment, massive amounts of specialty baking goods, the authorization to phone up companies and spend money autonomously. In short, he became insufferable. When his demands weren't met, he started slacking and not showing up for work. The feed the bitch calls would become more frequent. That's usually when I began buying bread out. And that's when Adam, not eligible for employment benefits, will go back to making sandwiches at the Yankee Doodle Deli, brunch cooking at Westside Saloons, consulting to some crack-brained pizzeria owner or novice restaurateur, freelancing for Debbie caterers, or just lying around his apartment. He'd print up another resume, another tissue of lies, invariably with another last name, and he'd start all over. Sooner or later, I'd call him again. Or Sears would, and Adam, real last name unknown, would be back in the saddle again. Adam can surprise you. He gets along well with my wife. He's actually polite in stretches. For the last few years, something of a record for Adam. He's been working for a very fine caterer and apparently doing good work there. I turned on public access cable one night to see Adam and Chef's Whites exchanging witty banter with the late-night cable hosts and guests. Holding his own very nicely, he was delightful and funny and fast on his feet, and he had an impressive display of baked goods laid out on the table to sample. He's still making bread and pizzas for Jimmy Sears. For some time, I have heard no tales of violent assaults or $13 whorehouses or near overdoses, so maybe he really has cleaned up his act. That's sick, man. He ended up on TV. He's the best at what he does. God knows a man who can make those perfect rough/boules of sourdough and Tuscan country bread deserves his place in the sun somewhere. He's the best at what he does after all. The finest bread I've ever had and the most expensive. In human caused aggravation and worry. Hiring Adam, real last name unknown, was always a trade-off with God or Satan. I don't know, but it was usually worth it. Bread is a staff of life, and Adam, the unlikely source, something else God has to answer for. I like this is my favorite chapter, man. Adam, real last name unknown. Peace, y'all.